My name's Randall, and I've been on a crazy journey, and I just wanted to share some of this with you. I was born and raised by a phenomenal Christian mom and a Bible-believing home, but by the time I was about 12 years old, I had lots of questions. And so I started asking all of these different questions, and the church and my family kept saying, well, you just got to have faith. And that somehow didn't work for me. And so as soon as I didn't have to get in the car anymore and go to church or Bible camp, I didn't. And I started absorbing the latest in 20th century science and technology, and this made a lot of sense for me. I just loved this high school biology and physics, and it really explained the world in a lot more detail than some notion of God. And so I started calling myself a hypocrite. By the time I graduated high school, I used the word agnostic. I went off to Georgetown to study business, Oxford for business and philosophy, and ultimately graduated from Berkeley Law School. And when I came out of law school at the University of Berkeley, I was a full-blown practicing atheist. I mean, I was actually one of these atheists that would debate Christians and ask them that extra question and probe into their worldview and see what they really thought that they believed. And this is kind of a hobby of mine. Well, anyway, I was a good guy. Practiced law in the 90s in Southern California, kind of toggled back and forth between Southern California and Silicon Valley. This was the heyday of the dot-com era and technology. I'm a corporate securities lawyer, so I was representing all these great high-flying technology companies. I was representing rock stars and beer companies and juice companies and bagel companies and all these multimedia guys and gamers. It was a rockin' life. And I was a good guy. I honored my contracts. Since I was from a broken home, I was going to honor my wife. I would never think of even cheating on her. I was going to treat my kids right. And I had a social contract view of the world, which somehow said to me that if I'm somehow blessed with resources, then I have a social obligation to give back to my community. And I didn't need any kind of notion of a higher truth or God to tell me that this was the right way to live. You see, religion was okay for those people that were having a tough time. They needed a crutch to get through life. It was just kind of as long as they didn't limp in my direction, right? And so I marched to that tune for the entirety of the 90s. Well, I kind of got slapped down pretty good. I'm now in late 1999, and my mom was in a battle with breast cancer. And I was her cheerleader. You know, I was positive, and I was always there for her. But I wasn't really connecting emotionally to what she was going through. And November '99, she had to go to an oncology appointment, and they throw a lot of information at you, and she needed an extra set of ears. So I said, of course, I'll take a half day off work and come collect information with you. And crazy thing happened. I mean, the doctor was sitting there talking about the trade-off between ongoing treatment options and the ongoing quality of her remaining life. You see, she had been through a lot of radiation and chemo, and there wasn't much left to do. And so the doctor was getting real with her and saying, at one point we can give you more high doses, but the quality of your remaining months of your life aren't going to be that great. And boom, man, it just slapped me. I mean, I got to a point in my life where, wow, my mom was experiencing real pain. I mean, there really is life, and there really is death, and what about origins? And what about our destiny? And, see, everything all of a sudden just swirled around. It was one of these times where, I mean, my gut just dropped. And I went, wow, there's a lot more than just detached kind of rationalist dribble. I mean, we do live in a very mysterious, complex world, and there is stuff going on. And so it was from that day forward that I started asking the questions again, questions I hadn't looked at for 20 years previously. So I went back to where I walked away from any of this stuff, anything spiritual. I went back to what I was studying in high school. You see, 20th century science and technology somehow removed the need for God in my life. I had all the answers. So I went back to there and I said, well, what's 21st century science and technology revealing? So that's where I started. And so I started immersing myself in the books again. I started immersing myself in the technology. What were electron scanning microscopes showing us? What was the Hubble telescope showing us? What were scientists saying? And I got to a point where as I reviewed the causation and the order and the design and this inherent complexity in all that we see and the fine-tuning in our universe. I investigated the digital code that underlies our DNA. I looked at these irreducibly complex microscopic machines that are in us at the cellular level. I looked at our subsystems like our brain and our respiratory system, our reproductive system. I started examining thoughts of ethics, love, emotions. Why did I even care that I was thinking about thoughts of God and thoughts of religion? It makes no sense in a pure Darwinian theory. Why did I even care? Wait, what about the difference between brain, instinct, and mind? My conscience, subconscious, morality. Where did all of this stuff come from? And you see, I got to a place in my journey where, whoa, something did this. You see, there's really only two worldviews. There's two starting places for all of our thoughts on origins and life and purpose and meaning and destiny. And that is, something did it or it did itself. That's the starting point for everything. And I was living in a world of, it did itself. And all of a sudden I came to a realization that, no, something did it. Now don't get me wrong. I mean, this could be Gaia, Mother Nature, Brahma, the God of the Bible. You know, I was even saying it could be UFOs. I had no clue. But see, intellectual honesty at this point required me to go forward. I couldn't go backwards. So I was sitting there with this feeling of, wow, something is out there. I had to dump my naturalist, materialist, humanist worldview. Otherwise I was going to be, it had to die, because otherwise I was going to be intellectually dishonest with myself. So where I went next was, I said, well, how have other great thinkers in the last 5,000 years dealt with this question? If something did it, how do I examine what or who this something is? And so I started reading the history books and the philosophy books. I looked at archaeology. I looked at the ancient civilizations. And I ultimately started picking up these so-called holy books. And I realized that, wow, the depth of the last 5,000 years. Now, I was reading Plato alongside Confucius, alongside the Bible. You see, the Bible is the perennial bestseller of all time. Of course, as an intellectual, prideful skeptic, I had to read that book cover to cover, right? Like I was going to read my Confucius and my Plato, etc. Well, first thing I realized with this Bible was, this isn't a holy book. It's not some kind of good philosophy book or moral guide for living. This is a history book. It's actually 66 separate books written by 40 different authors over about 1,500 years. In and of itself, that's phenomenal. And the people, the places, the events, the civilizations, the wars, the treaties, this was history. I mean, I always thought it was just kind of like religious dribble and philosophy and moral teaching. No, it was history. And I next noticed that from Genesis to Revelation, it's all tight. I mean, it's so integrated. It's models, it's types, it's codes, the story itself, all of these prophecies. I was stunned because, you know, we all say we've read that book, but have we really read that book cover to cover?